Hey, it's Tom from Toons, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to install this underdeck ladder from PontoonStuff.com. Remember, you can save 5% off this ladder, and it helps our channel. If you shop at PontoonStuff.com, we've got discount codes in the description of this video. I've chosen my location. In this case, we're going between the starboard and center pontoon. If you're doing it on a standard pontoon, this is a lot more space to work with. It's going to be a lot simpler, easier. Yeah, I said easier to work on because you've got all the space underneath. It'd be easy for two people to fit under there. I'm going to be sliding underneath here, barely fitting. So again, it's doable on a Tritoon, but way simpler on a pontoon. Just make sure on your pontoon, if it's not a bunk style trailer like this, make sure that there's a gap on a center lift trailer enough to fit this ladder in. We have hauled pontoon boats on a center lift with this ladder system in. I'm going to start by getting my ladder up to where I can get some clamps to hold the front into position. We'll do that, and then I'll decide exactly where I want to start bolting things up. My front bolts are going to go through these flanges on each side. If you can only catch one cross member, that's totally fine. You're going to bolt a couple more into cross members farther back, so don't worry about that, not the end of the world. From here, if I line the front of my flange up with my angle here, it actually puts me in a really good spot. Get that lined up where I want it. And then I can clamp my other side too. We've got them both pretty much nice and flush. If this wasn't a Tritoon, it might be a little trickier. I'd need an extra set of hands towards the back of the ladder to hold that up, but it's actually resting on top of one of those pontoons right now. Makes my life a little bit easier. I'm gonna climb under here now and get one side clamped up to hold the back of the ladder in an upward position. So from underneath, the rest of my cross members are a Z channel. So I'm going to be able to get a clamp right up in here, a little bit more straightforward. And I'm making sure to clamp the outward part of the ladder. So I'm clamping this bracket so that the ladder can still slide if I need it to. When I've got this mocked up, let's take a peek where everything's at. My front is nice and flush on each side here. I really like where that's sitting. And then I've got that back suspended up there. I'm actually gonna start by drilling and putting in, I'm gonna use 5/16 hardware on this flange, stainless steel. And I can go ahead and I can get a couple holes drilled up behind my clamps on this back angle behind the cross member. And then I'll be able to secure that so I can remove the clamps and continue working with a little more space. Drilling through the flange and the bracket or your cross member. Long sleeves are a good idea on this because that's some hot metal. What's provided with your kit are some stainless carriage bolts. They're necessary to run through the channel of the ladder where the ladder is going to slide, so you don't have a big bolt head sticking out. That way nothing will catch. So we'll use these working back, but at the flange, I'm actually going to use 5/16. It's not supplied. You'll have to go to the hardware store or big box store and get some. A 1 inch is going to work for most, or 1.5 inch. Just a 5/16 stainless bolt with a washer and a nylock nut or a locking nut of some type. I'm going to grab those real quick. These bolts look like this. This is a 1 inch. It's a 5/16 diameter bolt. It's going to be a 1/2 inch wrench and socket. We've got a stainless washer to go with it. And this is a nylock nut. It's also stainless. It's going to thread on, and then this nylon insert is going to catch and hold. It's a really secure way to fasten anything on your boat. We're going to go washer on each side. And I'm going to run this up so that the nut is on the top. That way it will reduce the chance of anybody catching that. I'm going to put those on both sides. And with a washer and nut in place, I can go ahead and get my clamps out of my way. I'm going to use a wrench open end wrench and a socket to go ahead and tighten those in. Again, these are 1/2 inch size wise. When that's snugged in, I can tighten the other side. If you're having trouble with your hardware seizing or you're using way longer bolts, especially stainless, put a little bit of grease on the bolt or the nut, and that's gonna help keep it from seizing up, save you a lot of headache. In this case, with 1-inch bolts, it's really not, the odds of seizing aren't so high because I'm not tightening so far, and I'm tightening by hand, which is gonna reduce the odds of it seizing as well. If you're using an impact wrench, you're more likely to seize. With that now in place, bolted up in the front, I will run another bolt on the front side. I'll go ahead and do that now that the clamps are out of the way. We'll run our hardware the same way on this front one, and that'll be 2 anchor points of our 3. I wouldn't be mad if those were my welds. Yeah. They did a nice job. We've got our 2 in up front here. And these are going to count as 2 of our anchor points, which this is where the bulk of the weight is going on the ladder. When you're climbing it, you're mainly pulling on this front part. If you can catch 3 cross members continuously, that's your best bet. Mount to 2nd or 3rd stringer, mount to 1st stringer. So you want to get the 3 connections. If you can only get 2, that's just the way it is. Make sure you run that heavy hardware in the front because that's where most of the weight's going to go. But that's all you get for instructions with this ladder. That's why I'm making this video for you. I got to climb under. I need to take those clamps off so I can slide the ladder out. Then I can clamp it back up and I can get ready to drill. When I run my carriage bolts, I'm going to switch to a 1/4 inch drill bit. These are 1/4 20. And then I am either going to add a lock washer to this nut washer combo, like a split washer, a different type of locking washer, or just run a 1/4 20 nylock nut onto this 1/4 20 bolt. I am going to go under. I got to remove these clamps so I can slide the ladder out. We're going to let it deploy. Then I'll climb underneath and I'll get my 1/4 inch holes drilled up through the C channel of this ladder mechanism and the cross member. So it doesn't need to slide all the way out, and that actually puts some weight, kind of levers this up a little bit. I am going to go ahead and clamp one side up nice and tight. That's going to help pull the other side up just a little bit. And then I need to drill my hole. If you could look at this, I'm going to drill my hole through the top. This is the ladder C channel. I'm going to try to miss this hole and drill this in. It's going to be at a slight angle. We've got a lower flange on the bottom than the top, so I get a little more room to work with on the top of that ladder. This is a good place to have your safety glasses on when you're laying on your back, drilling upward into hot aluminum. Well, it's going to be hot when it starts falling on me. So I'm going to work my hole over as far as I can into the channel, and that way it's going to give a better bite and more secure. With that in place, I'm going to grab one of those carriage bolts. The way that we do this is carriage bolt going up, no washer on the bottom side of that. I cut it in my armpit.
Good job.
Couldn't do that again if I tried. Carriage bolt going up, no washer on it, but then we are going to get a washer on the top. Just helps distribute the pressure. And then that nylock nut on top of that. And we call this a ratcheting dog bone, but a ratcheting open end wrench is your best friend in this case. I've learned you're just better off getting into a position where you can work somewhat comfortably. And I'm just keeping pressure pushing upward on the carriage bolt so that can seat into the hole I just drilled, and then I'm tightening that nut. There's a little trick. If your carriage bolt wants to spin, there's a lot of carriage bolts used on pontoon boats from manufacturers, especially older boats. Duct tape works for everything. We put the sticky side on the carriage bolt head. Still gonna have to put pressure on it. Once the bolt really starts to bite, or the nut really starts to bite, then it's gonna dig the square part of the carriage bolt into the aluminum, and that's gonna help it grab even better. But getting this started, it was just spinning on me. Now with my thumb pushing on it and the duct tape, it's unable to turn, and it's pulling it up. And I'm just gonna wrench it till it's snug, because stainless steel is fairly soft. So there's a chance that you could break that nut or bolt combo. We don't want to do that. So that's going to suck it in there pretty nice and flush. That way the ladder won't hit it when it slides. And I'm ready to do my other side. So I can unclamp here. I'm going to drill my hole and repeat that same process. We've got that side snugged up in, so we can slide our ladder all the way in. And that is installed. This ladder is one of Corey's favorite ladders. It is super deep in the water. It's hitting the ground here. So this thing holds a ton of weight. You also got to think, you don't weigh nearly as much when you're under the water. So by the time you get your hands up on the deck to help pull yourself up, this can hold a good amount of weight. It's going to be nice and sturdy too. It's not going to swing under at all on you. It locks against the aluminum of the whole mechanism and doesn't allow it to swing under like some flimsy ladders. The other option you can do is add a couple of stainless or aluminum handles potentially right on top, so you have something to grab onto this way or this way. But typically it goes down so far that you can walk your way right up it, get your hands on top, and then it's a nice easy entrance to the boat. You might grab onto that railing nice and sturdy and pull yourself up and in the boat. That's it. We install these from time to time. This was a must-have for this customer to replace the big bulky ladder that he had to put inside the boat or on the front deck and deploy every time they wanted to use it. This, quick and easy, slide it out and slide it back in from inside the boat, no problem.